Hi everyone, my name is Courtney and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be discussing all the queer novellas that I've read. So hopefully if you are looking for a novella, this can help you out. Novella is listed as between 20,000 words and 30,000 words. And so it's normally around 100 to 160-ish pages. I tend to think of them as anything less than 200. And the beauty of a novella is not just that it's shorter and you can get through it quicker. It's also that when it's done correctly, it's just as good as like a short story or a novel in that it's very purposeful, it's very meaningful, and it uses its length to its advantage and really just has a complete fleshed out story in a short amount of time. As you can see, I really love novellas, and for Pride I wanted to discuss some of my favorite queer novellas because I tend to read a lot of these. This is also a popular TikTok I did a couple years ago now, and so I wanted to bring back this idea to my YouTube page because I have read some more since then. So we're first going to go over some honorable mentions. These are pretty short novels, so they're not quite novella status, but I figured, hey, if you're looking for a novella, want to read just a hint more, I do have some shorter novels for you. So the first one is going to be Ring Shout by P. Djeli Clark. This features a sapphic side character that I really love. It is technically a novella, but it doesn't have a queer main character. It has a queer prominent side character. But this is an historical urban fantasy in which Ku Klux Klan members are turning into these horrible, horrific monsters, and this group of black women are taking them down. Really excellent. A favorite read of the year I read it, so highly recommend. And getting into our novels that are not quite novellas, we have Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. This was not my favorite read. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, but I do want to recommend it. That is more about like atmosphere and vibes than like actual horror, but does have a little bit of that creepiness. And this is about a woman whose wife was part of like an exploration crew, and when she comes back, she's just not quite the same, and something weird is going on. And then our last technically novel is going to be Pet by Akweke Anezi. This is a young adult pick, which is why I wanted to include it so I can talk about some other picks besides our main ones. And I really loved this. It was really good. It's gotten a lot of awards, so obviously it's very much loved, but it's great for like speculative fiction, dystopian vibes, which is really compelling characters. And so now let's get into our true novellas. I will say I'm a sci-fi fantasy girly, so a lot of these are sci-fi fantasy. There has also been like a push in the sci-fi fantasy sphere for these novellas over the past couple years. A lot of them are literary leaning, and since I'm just discussing everything that I've read, I'm gonna go in order from least favorite to favorite, starting off with The Deep by Rivers Solomon. This is set in a world where African slaves that jumped overboard on sea ships traveling to the Americas became a race of mermaids. I highly recommend the audiobook for this because it is narrated beautifully. It's strange and weird and very harrowing, but I do highly recommend this. And the next book I have is a slightly recent read, which is Even Though I Knew the End by C.L. Polk. This is like noir, murder mystery, detective vibes, but there are also like angels and demons in this world, and it features a sapphic couple. I didn't quite like the end. I felt like the angels and demon things could have had a little bit more fleshing out because of the implications of how the novel ends, but it is a very interesting novella. And if you're looking for that kind of gritty noir with a speculative twist, this might be up your alley. The next book I have is We the Animals by Justin Torres. I believe this was his debut. I actually read it for one of my graduate courses, and I really found it very emotional and impactful. And this is basically about a family. One of the brothers in particular is just like struggling and really going through a lot of turmoil in his life. But if you're looking for like a literary fiction pick, this is the one to pick up. But be warned, there are some darker elements to it. The next book I have is another recent read, and that's going to be The River Has Roots by Amal El Motar. We'll get to her in a little bit. This is her newest release. It is a short novella done entirely by her. I have the art copy, so I unfortunately do not have the pictures, but it has pictures scattered throughout that are like woodcut drawings. And this is a fantasy world, and it is about two sisters, and one of them has a sapphic relationship. So if you're looking for like fairy tale vibes, this is perfect for you. I really enjoyed it, but it is quite an expensive book for how short it is, so I recommend going the library route myself, but I did really enjoy it. The next book I have is Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire. This is an entire series of novellas, and it takes place in a world world where there are children that travel portal worlds and come back, and they are set to this academy to kind of be hidden away or to fix themselves because their parents or whoever doesn't think that they actually traveled into these other worlds. This is the first book in the series. I believe there is 8 or 9 out now, and there's going to be about 12, maybe more. The books can be kind of hit or miss. There's some really big standouts to me that are some of my favorite books of all time, but there are some that are weaker in the series, but each are covering different topics. Most of the characters are queer. This first book has a asexual character, and so a very interesting series overall. The next book I have is To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Albertalli. This is science fiction, and it takes place in a world where a group of scientists have been sent into space for a space mission, and then things start going awry. It's really introspective. It's a little bit different than a lot of Becky Chambers' other stories. To me, this comes off as a little bit more literary, a little bit more introspective, but it still has a lot of the charm of her other novels. And yeah, I did really enjoy this. I do want other people to read it. But if you've read Becky Chamber and enjoyed her stuff, you need to pick up this one too. The next book I have is An Empress of Salt and Fortune by Niveau. This is another series of novellas. The first 2 books in particular are 2 of the most amazing novellas in my opinion. They're just really strong, poetic, but this takes place in a fantasy version of China, and it's about this monk that is traveling around collecting these stories from different people. And like I said, the first 2 stories are phenomenal. I do like the rest of the series, but those first 2 books stick so deep in my brain. The next book series I have is, of course, the Murderbot Diaries series by Martha Wells. This first book is All Systems Red, and it is a sci-fi adult series following an AI, I don't know what to call it anymore. It's like an AI human amalgamation contraption kind of a thing. But Murderbot is a sentient being, and they have broken away from their corporation government modules and are just a rogue agent kind of completing the jobs that they have to, but really despising everything that they have to do because they just want to watch their TV shows. And I love Murderbot. I love the side characters, but I've been really enjoying reading this series. I have 1 book left, and I highly recommend it. The next book I have is A Song for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. This is a duology, and this takes place in a, I don't want to say post-apocalyptic, but a very distant future and kind of a very eco-friendly place. But in the past, robots that were created, like these AI sentient robots, they broke away and they moved into the forest and just are kind of doing their own thing and not interacting with humans until this book where a monk that has been traveling around helping people has a chance encounter with a robot, and it all goes from there. Highly recommend this series. Love it so much. One of my favorites by Becky Chambers. And then the last book, you know it was gonna be here, and that is gonna be This Is How You Lose the Time War by Alma El Motar and Max Gladstone. This is a sci-fi. It is about these 2 rivals of these 2 distant factions of the distant future. They are time traveling, and they are in this weird rivalry, but they're also falling in love and writing letters to each other. And I am not a big time travel person, but I love this. It's still my favorite novella. But yeah, those are going to be all the queer novellas that I have read. If you've read any other ones, I would love to know about them. If you've read any of these or are going to read them, let me know. But thank you so much for watching this video. As always, thanks for liking and subscribing, and happy reading.